Welcome everybody to the X Factor podcast. Today we have a good episode for you today. We're going to be talking about NFL recap stuff this week. Here that's all happened in the NFL. Follow the Twitter, follow the TikTok. Like I said, they're always in the bio or in the description below. So like I said, that's just another reason to check out the description because I always have stuff in there that I forget to talk about. Um, Also, I want you people as fans to tell me what games I should be excited about because there's already games I am excited about that I will watch and I will rewatch and I will review and look out through. But what are some games that you or some players that are like, hey, Nick, you need to check this team out. You need to look at this player. Most likely, I probably have already seen them before because I am a football nerd and I love, um, and that's just what I love football. That's pretty much what I do all day. I scout players, I look at teams, and I just that's pretty much all I do for a living. So, um, we're gonna talk about the Denver Broncos versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Um, Easily one of the most boring games I've ever seen in my lifetime. I honestly don't know what or why Denver ever does this, but when they play the Chiefs, they try to manage the clock. They try to take over the time of possession. They try to do everything in their power to say, hey, we're going to win this game. We're not going to let you score 30 or more points on us. And I don't know why they do that, because when they do that, they lose. I really don't understand why they do that, because we've seen it with Vic Fangio. We've seen it with Nathaniel Hackett. And, we're seeing it right now we've seen it last week with Sean Payton. And I think Sean Payton is a better coach than both of them too, but I don't know why they do it. It's legit. If their offense was halfway decent, they could have probably done it. But guess what? They're not halfway decent. They're bottom 5 in the league. And it's just, and I honestly think right now Sean Payton is losing hope on Russell Wilson, and I honestly don't blame him. I really do not blame him because they traded so much for Russell Wilson just for him to go in and play the way he's playing the last 2 years. And it also makes you think, did Pete Carroll, did he have to babysit him? Did he have to um, pretty much watch him? Did he have to, make sure, protect him? He was a protected quarterback and a protected piece of glass and all that type of stuff. Is that what the deal is now? Makes you think, all that stuff. Because suddenly after Russell Wilson left, all this stuff came out about, him and all that. So it made you think, maybe he's just a protected quarterback. Maybe he was a system guy. Maybe under Pete Carroll's system, that's what did it probably. I don't know. Um, but if I'm being honest though, if Denver's offense was a little better, they probably could have won this game. Um, they came in, they took over time possession. Well, they didn't really take over time possession, but they tried to. Didn't really go in their favor. Russell Wilson had a very bad interception later on in the game. Um, time of possession 35 minutes to 24. Denver had 24. Um, Russell Wilson was 13 for 22, a touchdown and an interception, 59% completion rating. Very bad game from him. Javonte Williams, 10 for 52. Nothing really much to look forward for that. Receiving, nothing really there. Jerry Jeudy was 3 for 14. Quentin Sutton, 4 for 46. They had a touchdown from him, so... Judge Simmons had an interception. Zach Allen had a sack. Jonathan Cooper had a sack. It's just it wasn't really good enough for them to come up with the win. Chiefs, on the other hand, Mahomes doing Mahomes things. 30 for 40, 75% completion rating, 300 yards. Passing, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Isaiah Pacheco, 16 for 62. Not a good game from him, really. Travis Kelce, 9 for 24. Went off. Defensive-wise, Chris Jones had a sack. Drew Tranquil had a sack. Justin Reed had a sack. Also had an interception. Nick Bolton had an interception. But overall, this game was just a very boring game. And Denver should really start thinking about their quarterback stuff for the future. For obvious reasons. And if I were them, I would try to trade him, get rid of him somehow. Any loophole to get rid of him, I would get rid of him. Another game got to talk about here. The San Francisco 49ers get upset in Cleveland versus the 49ers. Browns proved everyone wrong as they were upset the 49ers at the 49ers. Big win last week against Dallas. All the 49ers fans, media hyping up Purdy, but the Browns proved that he is still human. Dallas proved it last year, but no one talks about it because Dallas lost. But Cleveland, I think Cleveland put it more clear that he is human because Purdy played awful. Like, he played absolutely awful. I don't know what this game was from him. It was a very bad game from him. He was not really. He wasn't feeling like the Brock Purdy we've seen. And I've told everyone I don't think Brock Purdy is a great quarterback. He's decent to okay. He's pretty good. He ain't great. You can put any quarterback in that system and you can win. The only difference is there's a difference between quarterbacks that can win and there's a difference with quarterbacks that can win you championships. Quarterbacks that win you championships. You're thinking about Patrick Mahomes. You think of Aaron Rodgers. You think of Tom Brady. You think of Peyton Manning. You think of quarterbacks now. You probably think Joe Burrow is one of those guys that's a quarterback that can win you games, also win you a Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes right now and Aaron Rodgers are probably the only 2 quarterbacks right now that can win you games and win you a Super Bowl. No other quarterback that I can really think of right now that can put that in that situation. Brock Purdy is a quarterback that can win you games. He could probably get you to a Super Bowl. Cannot win you a Super Bowl. I'm telling you now. He is this generation's version, this decade's version of Jimmy Garoppolo. We all hyped up Jimmy Garoppolo when he first came to the 49ers. How good he was playing. He tore his ACL. He comes back. Guess what? He takes the team to the Super Bowl with a great defense. Guess what? They couldn't get the job done. Bad time management. Guess what? They lost the game. Then guess what? Jimmy Garoppolo gets through a couple injuries. They seen how he really is. They got rid of him. I feel like Brock Purdy is I think Brock Purdy's going to end up the same way as Jimmy Garoppolo. He's going to get all this hype. He's going to get paid a big contract. And then, it's either going to be injuries or it's either going to be him just playing very bad football once his guys are gone. And we've seen how it went when McCaffrey and Debo went down. If Brock Purdy was such a generational, if he was such a good quarterback, he would bring in these other guys in during the game and say, hey, I'm going to give you the football. I'm trusting you to do your part. The only guy that did their part, in my opinion, was Brandon Ayuk. Jawan Jennings, no. Ray McLeod, no. George Kittle. one of the so-called one of the best tight ends in football. And what does he do? One catch for 1 yard. Like, are you kidding? One catch, 1 yard. That has to be some kind of... I want to know what kind of top 10, top 5 tight end that is, because that ain't a top 10 tight end. That ain't a top 5 tight end. That looks like a bottom of the league tight end. And Greg Olsen slobbing on his freaking knob during the whole game. You know, it was just... Defensively, they were able to stop. You know, they had 2 interceptions, still couldn't get nothing. They had a couple sacks. Granny Gregory had a sack. Nick Bosa had a sack. And yes, they were down. San Francisco was down. Their top, 2 of their top players on offense. But you know what the Browns were down? They were down Nick Chubb, Deshaun Watson, and Batonio. Guess what happened? They still won the game. And I'm going to give credit to that defense. We all talk about San Francisco. We always talk about Philly. We always talk about Dallas. We all talk about those 3 defenses. But if there's a defense we need to talk about, it is the Cleveland Browns. They have let up as less yards as any team through the first 5 games in 50 years. Think about that. That's crazy. That's absolutely like crazy talk to think about, if I'm being honest with you. And if Cleveland had like a little better offense, they would be undefeated right now. You know? Jake Moody, they spent a 3rd round pick on him. Guess what? Didn't do jack. I think he missed 2 kicks, even the game winner. You know, they had chances to win. Couldn't get them done. But Brock Purdy still somehow had him in the game. You know, just that Browns offense was not that great either. But Purdy, not a very good game. 12 for 47. 44 completion rating, 150 yards. Or 125 yards. Touchdown, interception. Easily his worst game of his career. And in my opinion, like I've been saying the last couple weeks, he is a system quarterback. I still do think that the 49ers are going to bounce back from this loss. But my opinions still are the same about Brock Purdy. I still think he is a system quarterback. I still think he is just a Jimmy Garoppolo Build-A-Bear that's eventually going to get tossed down because Kyle Shanahan doesn't want a quarterback that is going to do what they want to do. He wants to tell the quarterback how he wants it. Otherwise, you're going to have problems. I'm sorry, if Kyle Shanahan had Burrow, if they had Lamar, they had Allen, they had Mahomes, they'd be winning Super Bowls right now. But guess what? They're not. And I think the main reason is because of the coaching. Sorry to say it, but it's true. Alright, getting down to also another undefeated team went down this week as the New York Jets upset the Philadelphia Eagles 14-20. Zach Wilson has been playing top tier football the last couple of weeks. And this week he played but he still got the job done. 19 for 33, 186 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 picks. Had a rushing time with Breece Hall. But I got to talk about the Eagles here because Jalen Hurts, 28 for 45, 280 yards, touchdown, 3 interceptions. His worst game as a Philadelphia Eagle, bar none. And Philadelphia, we talked about them. Yes, they went to the Super Bowl last year. Yes, they're still, a good football team. But we got to make a little bit of a thinking here because this Eagles team is not the same Eagles team that we seen last year. Last year's Eagles team would have beaten them by 50. Last year's Eagles team would have probably beaten them by 30. And probably would have smashed mouth, gotcha, boom. And minor Jets were down 2 corners, and Jalen Hurts still threw 3 interceptions. And everyone goes after a certain quarterback with a star on their helmet for interceptions, right? But through 6 weeks, you want to know how many interceptions Jalen Hurts has? 7. Jalen Hurts has 7 interceptions through 6 weeks. Talk. But you want to know what? You want to know what we hear from the media? Oh, because Jalen Hurts has one bad game, we should criticize. Well, what do they do with Dak? One bad game, they criticize. We've seen it against Phil. We've seen it against San Francisco. Is Dak the man? Is he going to be able to go and, be the guy for Dallas? Should they replace him? Should Trey Lance come in? I seen one guy saying, "Oh, Dak should get hurt, or will Dak get hurt and Trey Lance come in with a smile on his face?" Like, what are we doing here? Yes, when you're a Cowboys quarterback, you have standards that are bigger than what any quarterback could think about. Even bigger than Mahomes could. If Mahomes was a Cowboys quarterback, he would be getting, he had one bad game and the fans would go absolute shit on him. Media would go shit on. If any quarterback was playing for this team, guess what? They would shit on him. And it doesn't matter if Dak's played 8 years, 15 years, 20 years. Just because someone's played 8 years and has not won a Super Bowl, or has not gone to an NFC Championship game, you're going to criticize him. Like, come on now. And when I look at Jalen Hurts, sometimes I think of Carson Wentz. His first year, okay, he didn't play great. They still made the playoffs. Lost the first round. Carson Wentz, they didn't make the playoffs. Second year, they make the Super Bowl. Carson Wentz got hurt. Jalen Hurts got hurt at one point. Jalen Hurts lost Super Bowl. Nick Foles won them the Super Bowl. This year, Hurts is not the same quarterback as we seen last year. Their team is getting older. Their team is getting more hurt. Lane Johnson just got hurt. We don't know how much Jason Kelce has left in the tank. Once them two are gone, that offensive line's cheese. There's nothing. You have Landon Dickerson and Jordan Mailata sitting on the other side. What do you have for the other side? You have pretty much nothing. You have Cam Jurgensen, maybe? Like, come on. You look at the defense. The defense is aging over there as well. Hassan Reddick, we got Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat, but you also have Carter and Davis sitting right there at D tackle that are going to be game records for the next 10 years. But this Philadelphia Eagles team needs to take a good look in the mirror right now and say, are we a team that can go into San Francisco? Because at the start of the year, I didn't think San Francisco could beat Philadelphia. The more I look at it, the more how the Eagles are playing, I think Philadelphia can go into San Francisco, and San Francisco plays around them like dolls. If I'm being straight up honest with you. Like, Philly is definitely not the same team. But guess what? They're still getting the job done. And that's one thing you always like to see. They're still getting the job done. But getting the job done in the regular season and getting the job done in the postseason are two different things. You got to get the job done in the postseason. That you got to play your best football in the postseason. And as a Cowboys fan, I know that team don't play good that I've seen teams, really good teams, play good in the regular season and play shit in the postseason. Eagles need to play. They need a top notch. They need to change something. Jalen Hurts, he's a turnover machine right now. And I'm sorry, with that's not going to get you when you have to play Dallas. It's not going to get you when you have to play San Francisco. It's not going to get you anywhere. So, but if you're talking about NFC teams, also, with the San Francisco game, Jim Schwartz, who is defensive coordinator for the Browns, is 8-1 against Kyle Shanahan. Now 9-1. So, just throwing that out too. Also, talk about one of the better NFC teams. I think are probably top 3 now. The Lions. Lions are 5-1. Best record for the Lions since 2008 or 9, around that time. Or 2009 or 2010 or 2013, wherever, sometime with Stafford. One of their best records in years. They are now 5-1. They're a team that you can look at and say, hey, they could contend. You look at teams like the Seahawks, they can contend. The Bucks are shockingly contending. They're 4-2 right now. I don't know how much it's gonna last. The Bucks, I feel like the Bucks are like last year's Giants team. I'm not gonna lie to you. They're pretty good, but they're not gonna win you a Super Bowl type of thing. But to me, that's just really where we're landing at right now with that. The last game I'm really going to talk about, because there's not really much that happened throughout this week, through big games. Cowboys, Chargers, a flag fest for each team. The penalties were absolutely crazy for both of them. There were 11 penalties on Dallas, 9 on the Chargers. Everyone coming up in here thought, okay, Dallas, they could potentially lose this game. Well, guess what happened? They didn't lose that game. They won somehow. Somehow they came in and won the game. I don't know how. Dak played easily one of the best games of his career. Or this season. One of the best games this season. The offensive line was crumbling. Dak went out. Boom. Dak Prescott won us this game. Mike McCarthy didn't. Mike McCarthy was absolute shit. And I'm starting to pre-think his play calling. I think they need to let Dak call the plays, because we've seen how Dak calls the plays. We've seen it when Dallas played the Raiders in the preseason when Dak called them. They won. They need to give Dak that and say, you know what? Take it. Take this play calling and go win us a Super Bowl. And if I'm Jerry Jones, you don't know how many more years Dak has left. The offensive line is slowly crumbling right in front of you. And what are you going to do? You traded for good players. Brandon Cooks finally had a really good game. Michael Gallup played awful. But there are still some plays that were like, okay, they didn't call a flag. Why? Type of stuff. It's really... This team didn't even feel like the team should have won. To be honest with you. They did. And they got hit in the face multiple times, and they're like, okay, we're going to come back from this, and we're going to win this. And they won it. Even with the backups coming in, Bell, he played very well. Leighton Vander Esch also going on the IR, so they've signed Rashaan Evans, so hopefully we get to see him on the field soon. Tony Pollard, passing game, they need to stop running the ball, though. When the running game's bad, stop running the football. Please. Stop running the football. It's not going to help your situation. We've seen it. We've seen it, how it went most of the times throughout the season. Tony Pollard, 15 carries, 30 yards. What are we doing here? Dak Prescott, 21 for 30, 272 yards, and a touchdown. He also had a rushing touchdown. He had an 18-yard rushing touchdown, which we haven't seen in years from him. So, good to see all that, too. Chargers, they played pretty well. Justin Herbert, though, did throw an interception when it came to try to win the game from Austin Eckler. We stopped the running game. If there's one thing I know we can do now is stop the running game. McCaffrey last week, we stopped him with 50. About 50 yards rushing. We got Austin Eckler to 27 yards rushing. Only. Very good. Cannot stop Keenan Allen, though, he had 7 catches for 85 yards. Could not stop him once. The one interception at the end. Mike Parsons came up clutch with their first sack, and then also with the interception later at the play after from Stephon Gilmore, who's been getting torched this season. Overall, I think this is a great win for Dallas to go into their bye week. They're now 4-2. They have time to relax, sit there and change up some of this play calling. Potentially sit there and say, "Hey, Dak, you want to call play calls? You want to do this, you want to do that, whatever." So they now have time to sit there and think that. And I feel like they could do that. That's all I got for y'all today. Stay tuned for an episode later on this week. We got Monday Night Raw review to go through. We still got NXT to go through. AEW coming up soon. So y'all have a good day and stay blessed.